I'm Paul Plotkin, Senior Account Executive at G&G Technologies, and thank you for joining us today for the second in our Knowledge is King webinar series, focusing in on Blackmagic Design. G&G hosts this series every second and fourth Wednesday of the month, featuring industry-leading manufacturers including NewTek, Sennheiser, Broadcast Picks, Shure, and many others. So please look for future invites from G&G, and we certainly hope to see you here again. Dating back to 2002, when they launched the DeckLink capture card, Blackmagic has grown rapidly to become one of the world's leading innovators and manufacturers of creative video technology, with their philosophy of helping true creativity blossom. Today, we're joined by Bob Caniglia, Director of Sales, Blackmagic Design, North America. Bob began his work in the TV and film industry in 1985 as a camera op and editor for industrial videos. He finished his schooling at night while working full-time as a commercial producer and editor at his local CBS affiliate. His hard work landed him an editor position at the Disney Channel, and later he worked on music videos for some of the biggest names in entertainment, including Madonna, Prince, and so many others. That real-world experience then led Bob to broadcast manufacturers Panasonic, Quantel, Snell & Wilcox, and eventually Blackmagic, where we have the distinct pleasure of his presence today. So without further ado, I'm very happy to present Bob Caniglia.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everybody. I think the best thing you might want to do is pin me, so that way you can just see me as I go through everything, because I use a Blackmagic ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which I'm sure doesn't surprise anyone that I'm using Blackmagic equipment, including my pocket camera. So actually 13 years ago last week is when I joined Blackmagic. They had just bought DaVinci, where I was working there. And as I tell everybody, I was the youngest guy at DaVinci, became the oldest guy at Blackmagic overnight. So just like that. So here we are 13 years later, and they have added quite a number of other products since then. Lots of cool things. The cameras came, switchers were first, Teranex, Syntel, scanner, the Fairlight audio, Fusion, visual effects, all kinds of things. The DaVinci Resolve software, as you know, very full-featured now, has 2 editing pages, has a page for Fusion visual effects, the Fairlight audio, the DaVinci color and output and things. So it's amazing what's gone on. As I said, it was $300,000 for a DaVinci system back then, and now it's free. So we're still making it up in volume, though. Don't worry about that. So one of the things I like to tell everybody about Blackmagic is that we update our products often. And because we update software and things like that, I always tell people that they need to go follow us on Twitter, where we make the announcements for new product releases as well as software updates. So if you go to @Blackmagic_news, you can find all of the latest and greatest updates. It's the first thing I check in the morning to make sure I'm up to date with all my equipment. I just got back from IBC, so if I fall asleep in the middle, I apologize. Hopefully I won't. I'm trying to drink coffee as best I can. So the thing about, we just came back from IBC, where we announced a couple of new Ultimats, which I'll get to in a second. It's been a very busy, crazy last 2 years. It's nice to get back into some in-person shows for people to actually touch and feel some of the products. We'll be in NAB New York next month, so look for us there. So let's see. I want to take you through a couple of things that we have recently announced on our website. So I can actually just do that easier if I take you through there and navigate some of the things that I think that one of the, as many people know, Blackmagic does, we make a lot of different products all the time. So new Ultimats, we'll start there because it is the newest thing. So when we bought Ultimat was about to come out with their Ultimat 12 at somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000. And we, I guess the first ones were, I think 10, no, maybe 20,000 or whatever, you know, but over the years, we were trying to figure out a way to bring Ultimat technology to everybody. And so the new Ultimat 12, there's 4 different versions of it, right? So it's an Ultimat for every camera. And the reason that you would do it where you would put it on every camera is you could create your own virtual set where you don't need camera tracking. So you do a virtual environment, but you put the images matched to each angle. So that way it looks like they're in a big studio, but they're not really. You'll see here, there's 4 camera angles with a green screen. They use an actual desk in this particular instance. And this way you get different camera angles for each camera. And it looks like you have a large virtual set. Now, the thing about Ultimate is that we've created these 4 different ones. The HD Mini is the one that has HDMI. It's the one on top there, starting at $500. Then we have the Ultimate 12 HD, which is SDI based, the Ultimate 12 4K, so that's also SDI based, and then the new Ultimate 12 8K. So 8K requires quad 12G cables in order to bring in a signal in there. I'll show you what the back looks like on there. So on the top there, you can see that there's some different inputs that you have on even the HDMI. There's some SDI that you can bring in for backgrounds and things like that. There's an internal still store on all of them. So that's really where you can make the combination happen. So what you're doing is you're doing the keying inside the Ultimates, and then the output of it goes to the switcher. So it's already composited. So this way, and you can turn it on and off. We do have our remote control panel, but we also introduce software. So there's a software now that you can use to configure all of them. Let me see where I can get down. Yeah, so we have all the different IO, but the beauty is that when you have the software working, you can operate it on your laptop and control any of the ATEMs, any of the Ultimates that you have. So this makes it a lot easier, smaller, less expensive for sure. Never thought we'd have a $500 Ultimate, but you still get the amazing quality that people have expected from Ultimate for years. It's a lot easier to use with the software setup, and you can really get into some great tweaking eventually, as you play through it and work on your lighting and things like that. But even just out of the box, you'll get some great outputs. So you have control over the mats, the foreground, the background. We're going to start doing some videos so that we can take people through it. So we'll put them up on our website as soon as we can to take people how to use them. And as I said, you're talking about Ultimate quality keying at starting at $500. So that was pretty exciting. We had been working on them for a while, but during the pandemic, we pivoted to do some of the more live streaming boxes, like the new ATEM SDI models. So the ATEM Mini, which was introduced, it was funny, it was 2019 is when we first showed it at IBC. Then we started delivering by the end of the year, and then a couple months later we went into a pandemic, and now everybody's been using them to do things like this, which is exactly what I'm using. I'm using the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO so that I can show you all kinds of different, whether it's cameras or computers or whatnot. That was a computer. I actually have 4 cameras that shoot out the window. That's live from Atlantic City. And this gives me I'm going to take you through this in a little bit, but I just give you an idea of some of the things that I can show just straight up from here. That's obviously the camera output. And I have me here, and although I'm not using Ultimate yet, I will be, because I have a terrible green screen behind me, which I use on purpose to show how good the keying is in the ATEM Mini. That was a house that I once owned, but I don't live there anymore. So let's take you through some other things that we introduced recently, including the new ATEMs. There are a lot of them. We introduced, as I say, we introduced the new ones for the SDI versions of the ATEM Minis. So what you have now is essentially the 4-input ATEM SDI. That's 4 SDI inputs. The SDI Pro ISO is 4 inputs, but also does the recording. So all the ISO models of the ATEM Mini and ATEM SDIs, they can record each of the inputs as well as a program output. And then it creates a DaVinci Resolve project, and you can just load it into your DaVinci, and it'll populate the timeline with the actual cut that you did, whatever you were doing during the broadcast, and then you can go back and match in to the ISO recordings to tweak them. It can also be done if you have Blackmagic cameras that you put in to record as Blackmagic raw files. You can go back and relink the media from the basic, the H.264 recordings to the actual raw recordings and output much higher quality. But the basic work has been done in the DaVinci Resolve project, giving you the timeline that you created while you were doing the broadcast. The SDI Extreme ISO is the 12 input version of that device. I actually have one here. So this is the new Extreme ISO with the SDI inputs, and it has 8 inputs and four SDI outputs, as well as 2 USB-C ports to do recording or to output a webcam. So that's essentially what goes on here. Is I take the output and it becomes my webcam. So to Zoom, I'm just a regular old webcam, except I have all these outputs. Now, I actually do another trick where I use a video assist to interface to the computer, because then I'm allowed to show that, which is my multi-view. So now you can see all of the inputs that I have, and whether I'm recording or streaming or whatnot. That is something that you can't do when you have an Extreme or any of the ATEMs hooked up, because it doesn't want to show the multi-view. It thinks you always want to show program, but sometimes you have to fool it to do what you want it to do. So that's what I'm doing here. Let's see. So if we go back to so the ATEM minis, we had introduced the constellations. I'll just briefly review them. They're the ones that the new HD models, the 3 HD models. We're still waiting on the ATEM 4ME to ship. I understand it'll be relatively soon. Those are popular rack mount versions, updated versions from our other switchers that we had. We also introduced a couple of different size advanced panels. There's now 2ME with 30 inputs as well as 40, so direct buttons. So it essentially looks like half of what the ATEM 4ME panel looks like. That's also one that we came out with. So the panels, the 30 and 40 input panels will be shipping shortly. 40 4ME panels had been shipping already, and it was nice to finally see the 40 input in person, both at NAB and at IBC in Amsterdam. So those will start shipping soon. One of the other products that we have is the Hyperdeck, the new Hyperdeck line that came out, and this is the Hyperdeck shuttle. This is some footage I recorded over the winter. So I have control over this Hyperdeck, and I can jog and scroll. So this is the Hyperdeck shuttle, which is the small one that is available to basically coordinate with the switchers that we have, the low profile switchers. So the ones that the ATEM minis and things like that. So it's got a jog shuttle knob on it. I'll get to it. The other thing that you can do with the Hyperdeck shuttle version is that you're able to let me show you the picture though, so you can see this. You're able to use it also as a teleprompter. Whew, I almost fell asleep. So the Hyperdeck has the ability to record and playback. It fits really nicely next to the ATEM minis, but you're also able to use it as a basically the output and scroll a the teleprompter. And let me show you what that looks like. So when we go to the menus of the Hyperdeck, need camera 7. I don't need that. There we go. So if I go here to the menus, I can change what I'm set to down here. Going to change it from ProRes to teleprompter. It's set, and now I have a teleprompter. Now I can play the teleprompter, and then I can adjust the speed of the speed of it, and then send it to a monitor. You can send it to an iPad and put it in a mirror, you know, whatever you need, but it gives you the ability to use the device for more than one thing. And then you can put it back to being a playback device by spinning it down to the codec that you were using. In this case, we're doing that, and there I go back to there, and I take the menu button off, and it's back to being a Hyperdeck. So it's useful. It's a different form. We have the Hyperdeck minis that fit in a rack. You can rack mount up to 3 of them, but this is basically designed for a tabletop setup where you might want to play back and record machine, and you put it in with the Hyperdeck. It also is controlled through the Ethernet, so you can control it through the ATEM if you need to. So it's quite clever. It's good to have another option, and when you match it with one of the ATEM minis, it's just easy, small, and you can take it on the road with you at any time. One of the other products that we launched recently was a refresh of the Pocket Cinema, the Pocket 6K. So there's a new 6K Pro, and what we did with this is essentially we gave it a new tiltable screen, which was similar to the Pro version of it, and also the ability to add this eyepiece, you know, for the viewfinder. So the EVF is now an option for both. It's still the same EF mount. So you have the Pocket 4K, which is micro four thirds, the 6K Pro now, which also has the built-in ND filters. So it is the only difference, the difference between the 6K Pro and I'm sorry, the 6K Pro and the 6K G2 is the ND filters, and the screen is much brighter on that. But the accessories for both of the Pocket 6Ks, the 6K G2 as well as the 6K Pro, they are the same. So you can use the Pro battery grip as well as the EVF, and that G2 came out recently. Prior to that was our URSA, the Blackmagic, there's the battery grips there, the URSA Broadcast G2. Now that's not an understatement. It is the world's most flexible broadcast camera. And the reason I say that is because you're able to use it as a live camera, but you're also able to use it as a cinema camera because it's got a 6K sensor in it. Now, on the broadcast side of it, using the 6K sensor and getting either HD or 4K out of it, you have a really great low light sensitivity in this camera because it's the same as the Pockets. So you really have a wide range. So the original one wasn't quite as good in low light as this one, but this one's very good in low light. You have the ability to record Blackmagic RAW in it, either with the SD cards, the CFast cards, or the USB-C discs. You can use the zoom and focus demands that we created. You can actually now stream from this. There's a way to stream out the back of the camera, so you can There's a USB-C port on the back that you can hook up to Ethernet and be able to stream out of it. So it is a very flexible camera. The broadcast name sometimes doesn't do it full justice because of the abilities that it has for doing digital cinema work. So you can use it for running gun. Obviously, you can shoot up to 6K, which is great. And it's also a great live camera that you can outfit with all the usual lenses and things like that, because it has the B4 lens, but it comes with an EF mount in the box, and you can actually put a PL mount if you want to. Has the ND filters, as you see. Again, our website has better graphics than I can create in a PowerPoint. So this camera is done extremely well in the time that it's been. There's some Fujinon lenses that I know have been paired with it, but you can also do that. Like I said, the USB-C recording off the back of it, and it really has taken it to a different level given the low light sensitivity of the sensor itself. So that has been great. I actually have one of them in my office now. That's one of the cameras that's pointing out the window. So if I go to that, so this one, I'm going to change. Well, we'll go to, let's go to, so this is the camera solo. So this one just pointing out my door, and I'm able to play with it. Let me get the software up again, and I'll show you how I can adjust it from here. So if I go to this, it's hard to TD and do it all at the same time. All right, so here we are. So now I have the software. You'll see I'm using it to zoom, right? So I can zoom and deal with color. I have the full control that you would have, but the ability to do it just remotely from here. But with the streaming now, you can actually have control of it from anywhere, which is very cool. So we've added some cool stuff to it. Obviously, it's you can make as bad or good a picture as you want with the software. So you have to kind of keep it under control. There you go. And so this is pretty wild. I had to turn off all of my tally lights in here because I didn't want people to notice that I was shooting out the window. So you have to watch for that. Let's see. So on the 4-camera shot, 2 of those cameras are the new studio cameras, the small studio cameras, and then I have another pocket camera that goes out there. Today there's nothing exciting going on, but sometimes there's helicopters that land on the top of the Hard Rock Casino parking garage. You'll see that the top left is the Ferris wheel on the steel pier in Atlantic City. And I used to think that was a lot of noise that you would see around the Ferris wheel, but it's lights. Those lights are on 24/7. I'm not really sure why. You'd think they could get a timer, but all that little kind of blinking going on around there is actually the lights that are on all the time. And today, I guess summer is over, so they don't have a lot going on. But as I say, you have full shading capability to take it to wherever you need for the shot live. And I do it with the software. There's also hardware panels that we make. And as I say, we introduced, let's see, so it was just the Ultimates at IBC. The SDI versions of the ATEM minis were done not long ago. Then before that was the G2 of the 6K Pro. And one of the other things that we talked about at NAB was the Blackmagic Cloud. So there was a couple of things that we mentioned. So Blackmagic Cloud is a service that houses Blackmagic Resolve project libraries. And what that means is that people that work with others collaboratively on DaVinci Resolve projects can host the project files in our cloud service. It's $5 a month for a library, which can hold lots of projects. And the people that access it don't have to pay. They're just part of the, the person that owns the library sends the password to everybody so that they can share the project files. Now it's only the project files. For the actual files that they use, the video files, digital film files, whatever you want to call them, they are basically moved around through DaVinci Resolve. So in DaVinci Resolve, you can move files through Dropbox and now the G Drive to be able to send the proxies to the editor, and maybe the camera originals go to the colorist, that kind of thing. And you can do it through Resolve. So basically you're taking the files from where you have them on your desk or on your SAN or whatever you have, and then up through the cloud back down to wherever the other person is that's pulling them down. And in order to help facilitate some of that workflow, we created what we call our Blackmagic Cloud stores. So the cloud store is the one that looks like the eGPU that starts at 20 terabytes and on up. We'll be shipping those soon. There's the Cloud Store Mini, which is 8 terabytes, and then the shuttle pod there. The pod is there to bring your own storage. So if you have I'm trying to find my drive. So if you have like one of these USB-C drives, you can plug those right into a pod and turn it into 10 gig storage. So there's 10 gig Ethernet on the back of all of them. There's a 4 gig switch on the back of the cloud stores. So it's cloud storage for your desk. It's not really in the cloud itself. So those products are something that we are starting to roll out. It's sort of our first foray into storage. It's the kind that we built just for people that don't know much about, building a NAS or any of those kind of things. This is good, fast storage, because you need fast storage to use Resolve effectively. And it can just sit on the desk and multiple people can share there, but also through DaVinci Resolve, you can move files from it or any storage that you have attached to that system to any other people that are working on that project. So there's some more tools that'll be coming down the road. But it's, as I say, our first foray into providing help for the workflow that's needed for remote workflow. A lot of facilities already have a server that they put their projects on, but we were trying to help really the people that are working remotely. And with the Blackmagic Cloud service that we have, you're able to house just the project files, and then the Blackmagic Cloud storage is there to just help people use fast storage and be able to then integrate it through Resolve 18. 18 was launched at NAB as a beta, but it's a full release now. So you can always go to blackmagicdesign.com and download DaVinci Resolve. The free version works up to 4K on output. It will work projects that are done in the paid version. The studio version will also, people can open and share those even if they're not using the full version. It's very reciprocal. The only thing you can't do is you're unable to output over 4K with the free version, and anything like noise reduction that was done in the full version, it will still process in the free version, but you just can't adjust it. Those controls would be grayed out, but for the most part, it works very well. And DaVinci Resolve Studio comes with a lot of the products that we wrap around Resolve. So all the control panels, the mini, the advanced panels, the micro panels, the speed editor and the editor keyboard, all those, you can get the version of software. Now, I've wintered on for a half hour, so I want to see if we can open them up to questions and see if anybody has any. Let's see, is there a QA anywhere? Nope.
Hey, Bob. Actually, there was one.
Yep.
And let's see. Is the new Ultimat 12 reviving the older ATEM 4ME's keyer? At the time we purchased the 4ME, it was about 4 years ago. It was the next step down from Ultimat at the time. Keys wonderfully, and the user is wondering if we could find
Oh,
more enhancements in this
yeah. So,
versus
right.
the 4ME
Sure.
keyer.
Yeah, sure. So the Ultimat keyer has way more controls. And the reason why is because it controls the input, the background and the foreground separately. So you have a whole slew of other controls that you can do, including the ability to color correct. And I forget, they don't use that. They use a different term, but it's basically shading so that you can match the foreground and the background. So there's a lot deeper controls in an Ultimat than there are in the ATEMs. The advanced keyer, the ATEM is very good, but the Ultimats take it to a different level. And as I say, part of it is also to be able to match, to be able to put either a live background or a still background into the Ultimat, and then get a compositive output of that goes into the switcher. And so, yeah, it's definitely another level, but the advanced keyer was a pretty good addition at the time, because it was much better than the original keyer, that's for sure. And that,
So
yeah, go ahead.
in addition to Twitter, where can users find updates?
So the updates are on our website. So blackmagicdesign.com. There's a support tab, and in there they usually tell you what the latest are for each of them. Then you can go to each product category to find the updates. So that's there. We have a Facebook page. I guess I don't even know. I don't think we populate that as often, but Twitter is the one that we send out the updates about it. But if you just go to the website, in the support section, it'll show you the latest updates to all the different products.
I know it's kind of a loaded question, but about how
Hmm.
often should people be checking if that's the route that they choose to go?
So, well, the funny thing about it is I have it set so it checks every morning, because you never know, right? So let's see, we did a new update for the Hyperdeck on September 9th. We had the Ultimates on September 8th. We had a new version of Resolve on September 6th. There was a new camera update August 24th. Yeah, that's pretty common, where we have a few a month. Sometimes it's a couple in a week. And even internally, the product managers usually tell us if they have an update, but if they don't think it's a big enough update, they don't really write a whole thing about it. But if you see it, it just pops up. And we usually have a README file that tells you what's new. But they're always adding something. Resolve is always is updated quite often, adding new features and things. And yeah, so we had to update software last week, obviously, for the new switchers. I mean, with the new Ultimates. So that was good. And that was interesting to launch that. We launched, I guess, a day or two before the show started. So people came on the booth ready to see it, and also with questions, which is good. Oh, I see. That was that question. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Anybody want me to play with anything in the ATEM? What else? I have share of this. I have that. Yeah. So one of the things that all the cloud store products have is the ability to let's see if this will work. Ability to monitor your cloud storage. So this is an HDMI output from, I have a Cloud Store Mini, as it says right there. So any of the Cloud Store products have this capability. So in this particular case, I have a 10 gig port, 1 gig port, and then the USB. So I can, now I'm not doing anything with it, so it's not gonna actually be moving around much. but the idea is that it gives people a visual representation of their storage. When you have multiple people working on, say, a cloud store where you can have 4 10-gig ports at one time, you can monitor their bandwidth and also just monitor how much storage is being used and things like that. So that's on all of them. Even the pod has an HDMI output, so it's quite interesting. It's something to put on the B side of a monitor, and you're able to see how your storage is doing, how many people are using it, and if it's not working or it is working, things like that. If you do purchase one of the cloud store products, there's a setup utility app that we have that will help you immensely. I do a lot of speaking to the press, and the press, a couple of them said they couldn't set it up, and I said, well, did you use the app? And they said, what app? And then I said, yep, just let's download that. Let's put the USB-C port connected to it and take you step by step, and it does it for you. And there you go, because not everybody's an IT wizard. So we created the setup utility so that we can get people through. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions?
So regarding the Hyperdeck file formats, can you change those? Can you change the export file format?
So, well, when you record in the Hyperdeck, you record whatever you set it to. When you export a file that you want to play back in a Hyperdeck, you have to make sure that the Hyperdeck is set for that file. And so meaning that if you put it in at ProRes HQ and you record a file in ProRes HQ and you pop it into a Hyperdeck, you want to play it back, you have to make sure that the file is set to record Hyperdeck HQ so that it knows to read files that are in that same format. And the way I look at it is there were, if you're old enough to remember, there were tape machines that played either PAL or NTSC, just had to switch in between. But if you put the tape in the other format, it wouldn't know what to do with it. You have to tell the machine, look for these files, it looks for those, and then it'll play those and it'll record those. So hopefully that answers the question, but that's what you have to do in order to play them back in a Hyperdeck. Is if you bring in files that they just have to match the same record setting in order to see it. And it's similar to what I was doing earlier, where I showed you can play the video and then you go to the teleprompter. Well, teleprompter is just another input setting. Once it sees that that's what it's set to, it goes and looks for those files, and that's how that works. So that's actually a better illustration.
Yeah. How do you select which SD card you want to record on in the Hyperdeck?
It will tell you which card it's ready to record to. I'm trying to think. They fill the one. Yeah, it'll tell you, and you can select depending on the product. You can select which one it's going to record to. But what it does is after it fills the recording on that disk, it moves over to the next disk, and then you can pull out and drop in another disk, and it'll just continue to daisy chain on that.
So here's an interesting one. Any thoughts on having on-off switch for the Hyperdecks?
Yeah. Our policy on on-off switches seems to change depending on the product. We hadn't had those on a lot of the products. Then they started to come back depending. So I don't know. It depends on the whim of the product manager, I think. But I know there are hard switches on things like cameras and whatnot. Although that can also bite you if you put everything on a power strip to power them on and off. That works fine for the ones that don't really have an on-off switch. Right. If you have, say, a camera like the pocket cameras have the on-off switch on them, but if I turn off the power to it and there's a battery inside, it'll stay on and then be dead. Right. And then when I go to power it back up, you have to restart it, otherwise it doesn't. So, there's reasons, there's pros and cons for having the power switches, that's for sure. And that's part of it. But I think Teranex always had an on-off switch. Yeah, but that's the only one. Let me see what else. Oh, I see. Now I have the wrong.
Can you see the Q&As, Bob?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah. Okay. So ATEM question.
I'm going to leave it to you then.
Go ahead. Let's see what he says. I don't see the question. I just see ATEM.
So I have one. Can you recommend an ATEM switcher for live events with multiple inputs, multiple outputs to different displays with a multi-view and also out to stream without adding any additional hardware?
Sure. Well, actually, you can do that. So on the new, let's say the Constellation switchers, the HD switchers, they have let's see, the 2ME has 20 inputs, 12 outputs, and and you're able to stream through the USB-C on that. And you can loop out the multi-view to get it to somewhere if you need to do that.
And see the wheels turning.
Yeah, this one, which is this is the new Extreme ISO SDI. This one has 8 inputs, 4 outputs, and those outputs could be anything, including the multi-view. So you could get that out that way. It also streams and has a second USB-C port to record. The largest ATEM Constellation HD is the 4ME, which is going to start shipping soon. That has 40 inputs, 24 outputs. And again, all the outputs could be whatever they want. And so that would give you the ability to go anywhere. Now, someone asked me recently if there was a way to do a transition between 2 sources on an output, on an aux bus, which there isn't, but you could cheat by using one of the mix effects to do the transition, build a macro so it does the transition between the 2 sources and then hard cuts to the source it just took. So it frees up the ME again. So there are ways to do it. Yeah. So the other thing that I always tell people if they really want to get good at some of these things is to use one of these Stream Deck. I have no stock in Elgato. I don't know if it's a public company or not, private, but these little Stream Deck things are tremendous because what they do is they take the macros that you create in ATEM, and then you can add other things to it. So it's a very clever way of doing exactly what I was just saying. In one button press, you could have it do a dissolve between 2 sources on an ME, then take the source all in one button press of that output. So there are great ways, and those are available in I think 6 buttons. Mine is what is that, 15 buttons. So they have a bunch of different sizes and they're fairly inexpensive.
Sort of acts like a downstream.
It's like a downstream panel, really. What I always say, because a lot of people have set up some great ATEM setups for, say, churches and schools and things like that, where they have multiple cameras and they have trouble getting volunteers. But if you get one of those Stream Decks and you just label the buttons properly, they just have to hit this button, this button, this button, including go to stream. You can have a stream button to start the stream. You can have a record button. You can do whatever you want, and it makes it a lot easier for people and a little bit less intimidating than, say, the panel itself. You know, when people sit down and they see that many buttons, they get a little panicky, right?
A little intimidated, yeah.
Right. But if you show them one of these and you write exactly what it is, it makes it a little easier for people to get going. Yeah. So
on small ATEM minis, can you use the multi-view and the program out simultaneously?
Let's see. On the ATEM mini, can you use the multi-view? Right. So on the smallest one, there's only one output. So
that takes
you
care
can
of
use the, well, I'll tell you, the way it works is this: the output of the HDMI can be one or the other. The output on the USB-C, which is what you're seeing here, is the program. And so you can, that's the way, I'm trying to think, that's the way we used to do it. I would do that. I would have the multi-view output that I could see off the HDMI, but the program output was the output that my webcam would be. So I would see that and also use it to be my webcam. So that's part of how you do it. When you get up to the larger models, they have multiple outputs. That helps with those things.
And we do have an attendee that apparently has somewhat of a complicated question, and they didn't want to type it. So let's bring them in here real quick.
Okay.
Nicholas, are you here? You are
Oh, yes, I
muted.
am.
There you go. Ask your question.
Well, I bought a number of Blackmagic units. I got the small HDSDI Hyperdeck, and there is no button on it as such that allows you to choose which SD card you wanted to use. Matter of fact, by accident, I had some recording material on one card, but I wanted to use the first card, and it looked like it was going to do that, and then it wound up recording on the first card, and I couldn't switch it over to the second card unless I pulled the card out, in which case recognize the second card. I do have both of the ATEMs. I got the mini and I got the HDSDI. I primarily would use the HDSDI, but we do have some cameras that are using only HDMI, so that's why I got the little mini to switch those. Right now, I run a television station, a local access station for the town, and we also cover football games, and we're slowly changing that over to HD. And of course, the ATEM minis would be perfect for use with this, being that they're nice and small and easy to carry. But yeah, I originally got the HDMI version, and I said, well, how the heck can I get a multi-view output and yet still record the program output? And I don't know why that was not included on the Hyperdeck. I mean, not the ATEM mini, rather.
Right.
So that was a little puzzling.
Well, so the multi-view originally wasn't in there per se, because the switcher was created for people who didn't know what a multi-view was. Eventually we added it, but yeah, so what you can do is take the program output into the computer and you can record in there and still use the multi-view. So the larger models had more room, so we could add second and up to 4 now with the SDI. So you could have the extra outputs, but it depends on the workflow you're trying to actually do. What they're for. Now, on the other side of it, if you have HDMI cameras or SDI cameras and you want to use either one of those two, the bidirectional converters that we make work very well with them. And if you're using bidirectional converters with Blackmagic cameras, then you get the camera control like I'm doing here. I have the HDMI versions of the cameras plugged in directly into my HDMI switcher, but the SDI cameras have to be converted through the bidirectional converter, but then I get the full control over all of them. So that's the way that goes. But yes, we didn't get multiple outputs until we got into the larger versions of the ATEM minis. And as for the Hyperdeck, I thought there was a menu setting, but I'm not 100% sure about which card it does first. I thought there was a setting that you could do. There's a setup utility that you can play with to figure out which
that will basically assign which card you're going to record to.
I think it's the slot that you can do that, but I don't remember off the top of my head where that is or what that is. So that would be something to look at. Of course, you can always put a drive in after you start recording. So that's the other thing you can do.
Right.
If that makes it easier to remember where they are. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Can you recommend a switch alignment? Oh, no, did that one.
I think you covered them all thus
Yeah,
far.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyone else? Going once. Going
right.
twice. Sold. I'll take
There we go.
4 ATEM minis and
That's right.
a couple of URSA URSA Pros and yeah,
well,
be done
good.
with it.
Yeah,
There we
very
go.
good.
I
There
do
we go.
believe there's another one at 11:43. Did we answer that from James Rossi, Paul?
Yes, I believe we did. Yeah.
Okay. Then
Thank you.
never mind.
I think we're good.
All
Bob,
right. The
I want to
virtual sense,
thank
yeah.
you so very
Yep.
much. Anything else you want to cover?
No, as always, if you go to the website, you'll see all the latest and greatest. There's some very clever animations that we do to show people what the products do. And then, as I say, the support section has updates on all the products, and always best to update their software. It's the first question that the support guy will ask you: what version of software you're
What
running.
version?
So
Sure.
if you do it first, then you don't have to worry about that.
You got it.
But yeah, no, thank you for having me, and hopefully I was able to answer some questions, and look forward to doing it again another time.
Terrific job. Bob, thanks so much for joining us. Everybody, thank you, and please look for future invites. Our next will be on the 28th, I believe, and that's going to be Sennheiser. So we're looking forward to that, and
Well,
hopefully you'll be
that
able to
will-
join us.
That will not be Sennheiser.
It
That
will
will
not be
Shure.
Sennheiser. That'll
That's
be
going to
Shure.
be Shure.
There we
I
go.
know they're both audio companies, but let's not mix them.
Excellent. Guys, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.